Hello everyone, welcome to Bio World. Today we'll discuss about that class of bryophyte, that is moss. That moss, in that the predominant stage of the life cycle is the gametophyte. As we know that when we talk about bryophyte, in bryophyte, that main phase which is leafy and which is autotrophic, that is gametophytes. As we know that, first again remember bryophytes having three classes. Hepatocopsida, its example is liverworts. Second is Neet-Ncert-Gseb, its example is hornwort. And today we'll discuss about the third class, that is Bryopsida, and that is moss. So in bryophytes, as we know that the gametophytic phase, which is main, and it is autotrophic, as it prepares their food by own. That gametophytic phase here, it consists of two stages. That the first stage, which is known as a protonema. The first stage, which is known as a protonema. This protonema, which arise from germination of spore cells, and that it is creeping like this is spore, and which grows, divides, cells are added, which is creeping, that is branch, and which is frequently filamentous stage. Creeping मतलब जमीन पे ऐसे फैलना. And second stage, which is leafy stage, which develops from the secondary protonema as a lateral bud. So like this is spore, this is protonema, and from there that lateral bud arise. So this is leafy stage. Okay. That leafy stage, they consist of upright, slender axis bearing spirally arranged leaves. तो ये leafy stage होता है, उसमें ऐसे axis होती है and spirally arranged, आप देख सकते हो spirally arranged leaves देख सकते हो आप, like this spirally arranged leaves. They attach to the soil through multicellular and branch rhizoid. Most important, multicellular and branch rhizoids. And this stage bears the sex organ. और यही stage है कि जिसमें sex organs होते हैं leafy stage में. And ये multicellular होते हैं and branch होते हैं. जो rhizoid होते हैं यहाँ पे मल्टीसेलुलर होते हैं, क्योंकि हमने देखा है कि लिवरवर्ट्स में यूनिसेलुलर एंड अनब्रांच्ड थे, राइट, एंड यहाँ पे मल्टीसेलुलर एंड ब्रांच. सो दिस इज मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट. रिमेंबर, इन मॉसेस दैट rhizoids are multicellular and branch, while in liverwort it is unicellular and unbranched. Example are Funaria, Polytrichum and Sphagnums. sphagnum as a peat fuel as a very useful. Okay, so let's see the diagram of that funaria and sphagnum. So this is funaria. Here that are branch multicellular rhizoid. This is main axis. As we know that gametophytic phase having two phase steps, two stages, that protonema and leafy stage, and leafy stage which bears the sex organ. So this is leafy stage, but this is gametophyte. This is leaves. And here that sporophyte which depends on gametophyte. So this is sporophyte which possess, this is seta, that stalk like seta, and this is capsule. This is sphagnum, spirally arranged leaves you can see here. This is branches, right? Here that possess antheridium, and here archegonial branch. Right, so this is funaria and this is sphagnum. Okay, chalo. Now let's see about reproduction. Vegetative reproduction, as we know, by fragmentation and even budding in protonema. Secondary protonema में जो bud होता है, अगर वो detach हो गया तो can grow in a new plant. And this is most important to understand. लीफी गैमेटोफाइट की जब बात करें सेक्सुअल रिप्रोडक्शन, तो दैट लीफी गैमेटोफाइट एज वी नो दैट दे possess मेल सेक्स ऑर्गन दैट इज एंथ्रीडियम and female sex organ that is archegonium. Antheridium, this is club shape and it possesses biflagellated anthrozoids. उसमें जो भी एंथ्रोजॉइड्स प्रोड्यूस होते हैं वो कैसे होते हैं? बाइफ्लैजेलेटेड. व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट आर्कीगोनियम विच इज फ्लास्क शेप स्ट्रक्चर हैविंग अ स्वोलन वेंटर, यहाँ पे जो फूला हुआ होता है उसको वेंटर बोलते हैं, एंड यहाँ पे नेक. तो आप ये ऊपर जो देख सकते हो वो नेक है और यहाँ का जो है वो है वेंटर, एंड इट possess only one egg cell. So this is archegonium in blue color, right? ये blue color का archegonium है और यहाँ पे ये जो है क्लब शेप का antheridium. Now antheridium release anthrozoids. Anthrozoids are biflagellated. Most important, water is needed to move the antheridia up to that archegonia, and their fertilization occurs. Zygote is formed. Zygote will develop into sporophyte, that means it divides by mitotic division and forms sporophyte. But as we know that sporophyte which depends on gametophyte, right? As we have seen here, this is about funaria. So you can see this is sporophyte, but this sporophyte depends on gametophyte. Okay, so some of cell again undergo meiosis and forms protonema, and this will develop and again form leafy gametophyte. ठीक है, तो कुछ सेल्स डिप्लॉयड स्पोरोफाइट बनाते हैं और कुछ में मियोसिस होता है जो कन्वर्ट करते हैं, मतलब कि फॉर्म करते हैं प्रोटोनीमा एंड अगेन गैमेटोफाइट लीफी, एंड दैट विल प्रोवाइड न्यूरिशमेंट टू द sporophytic phase. So whenever we talk about bryophytes, never forget gametophyte is haploid, independent, photosynthetic. Sporophyte diploid, dependent on gametophyte. Sporophyte depends on gametophyte. ठीक है, चलो अब यही चीज पूरा थोड़ा साइकिल के फॉर्म में समझा दूं तो आपको एकदम कंसेप्ट क्लियर हो जाए. तो जैसे सबसे पहले जो कैप्सूल होती है उसमें स्पोर्स होते हैं. कैप्सूल जिसमें स्पोरोजिनस टिश्यू होती है, उसका जो ढक्कन होता है उसको बोलते हैं ओपरक्यूलम, यहाँ पे उसका जो ढक्कन टॉप पोर्शन होता है वहाँ पे 32 टीथ जैसे पार्ट्स होते हैं। ओके, यहाँ पे स्पोर्स रिलीज हुए, स्पोर्स जर्मिनेट होता है और फॉर्म करता है प्रोटोनीमा। सेकेंडरी प्रोटोनीमा में पे बर्ड फॉर्म होता है और उसमें मतलब कि लीफी स्टेज भी डेवलप होता है। अब कुछ सम आर डेवलप इनटू मेल एंड सम आर इनटू फीमेल गमेटोफाइट। सो आप टॉप पे देख सकते हो, ये है एंथ्रीडियम यहाँ पे, तो आर्कीगोनियम फीमेल, मेल गमेटोफाइट, फीमेल गमेटोफाइट, फीमेल। सो आप देख सकते हो कि फीमेल आर्कीगोनियम फ्लास्क शेप सेल है जिसमें सिंगल एक सेल होता है, और यहाँ पे दिस एंथ्रीडियम क्लब शेप, यहाँ पे एक सेल और ऊपर वेंटर कैनाल सेल होते हैं, यहाँ पे बीच में नेक कैनाल सेल होते हैं। व्हेन दैट एंथ्रोजोइड्स एंटर टू आर्कीगोनियम, it pass by water, and at that time that canal cells, neck canal cell and ventral canal cells धीरे धीरे destroy हो जाते हैं, and fertilization occurs within a archegonium, right? Okay, now the zygote is formed due to fertilization. The zygote will develop by mitotic division and forms young sporophyte. And this young sporophyte, we know that it depends on gametophyte. So you know that this is gametophyte. On gametophyte, that sporophyte is developed, which possess foot, then seta and capsule. Right? So this is sporangium, that is capsule, and you can see here that sporophyte which depends on gametophyte, and again when it got mature it will release that spores. Okay, चलो यही चीज़ हम वीडियो में भी देख लेते हैं. Let's see the life cycle of liverworts. So liverworts, we know that this is male thallus. You can see here this is male thallus. In male thallus, this is antheridiopore. You can clearly see this is antheridiopore. Now this is female thallus, and here that on female thallus we can see this is archegoniophore, right? Okay, now when they got mature, so in archegoniophore it produced only one egg cell. So here only one egg cell is produced, and that archegoniophore mainly it is of flask shape, and here one egg cell is formed. So remember that is within flask shape, right? And that when we talk about male, here that antheridium which is of club shape, right, and it produces so many sperm cells which are motile. So now you can see here that sperm cells are released, and these sperm cells which enter within antheridia, and where there is egg cell, so here fertilization occurs. So here you can see this is development of embryo. Now this will develop into sporophyte. So that also develop within archegonium. So now next, that spore mother cells which undergo meiosis and it develops and it will form foot, seta, this is foot, seta, center point, and capsule. So in capsule that spores are present, and foot which absorbs nourishment from the gametophyte, right? And when meiosis occurs, it will after release haploid spores and again on germination which will develop into gametophyte. Okay, so this is the life cycle of liverwort.
Forests are dominated by large plants that crowd one another in their competition for light. But far below on the forest floor, there is a group of tiny plants known as the mosses. With over 10,000 species, these plants thrive in many habitats. These moss plants form gametes and are therefore gametophytes. Moss gametophytes are haploid, containing only one set of chromosomes. Their small and compact form enables the stems to stay upright, while rhizoids anchor them to the soil. Moisture easily accumulates around the densely spaced stems. This often leaves a film of water on the leaves and on the stem tip. Hair-like growths called periphyses help to hold the water around the stem tips. Some stem tips are male and contain reproductive structures called antheridia. These are complex organs consisting of many cells. Each is supported by a stalk. The upper portion consists of an outer protective jacket that surrounds a group of sperm cells. At the tip of a female plant, there are numerous reproductive structures known as archegonia. The top of each consists of a slender neck. The middle region contains a chamber called the venter. The base of the archegonium is attached to the moss stem by a stalk. An egg cell is formed inside the venter. Inside the neck, the breakdown of cells forms a central canal containing sperm attractant. A rain shower provides the ideal conditions for sperm release and their transfer to a female plant. Droplets of rainwater collect at the tips of the moss stems. Inside the drop of water at the tip of the male stem, the antheridia open. This releases cells containing sperm, which float up to the surface. Raindrops splash some of this water out of the male plant. Some splash drops contain sperm cells and fall onto the tip of a female stem. The sperm now escape from their surrounding membrane and use their flagella to move about in search of an egg. The archegonium now opens and releases the sperm attractant. The sperm swim towards the source of the attractant and into the opening. Once inside, they are guided down to the egg. The first sperm to arrive enters the egg cell. Fertilization is completed when the sperm and egg nuclei fuse, creating a diploid zygote. After fertilization, many changes take place on the female stem tip. At first, the zygote remains within the venter, where it forms an embryo. However, one end of the embryo soon grows out of the venter and into the female stem. This allows it to obtain water and nutrients from the female plant. The other end of the embryo grows upward. The venter expands to accommodate this growth, but eventually it is split in half. The embryo now forms a very long stalk or seta that lifts the top half of the venter up into the air. This results in a small diploid plant, the sporophyte, attached to the tip of the female stem. These female stems have all been fertilized and support sporophytes above them. The tip of each is covered by the torn venter, or calyptera. This soon falls away, exposing a capsule, or sporangium. The capsule contains fertile tissue consisting of sporocytes. Inside the nucleus of each sporocyte, there are two sets of chromosomes. The nucleus divides by the process of meiosis, forming 4 haploid nuclei. Thin walls now form around each nucleus, resulting in a cluster of 4 cells, known as the tetrad. A deposit of sporopollenin produces cells with thick, resistant walls, called spores. As the spores are forming, the capsule dries out and hardens. Soon the lid, or operculum, falls away, revealing a ring of fine teeth called the peristome. These surround an opening in the capsule. As they dry out, they bend backwards, allowing the spores to escape. A light breeze is all it takes to carry the spores away from the parent plant. Spores carried by the wind may land on an exposed surface. After rain, the spore cell absorbs water and germinates. But instead of growing into a new moss plant, it forms a branched filamentous protonema. However, after a period of growth, some of the protonema form buds. Each bud will proceed to grow into a new leafy gametophyte. Spores then enable mosses to spread and colonize new areas, often some distance from the parent plant. Using both gametes and spores, these unassuming members of the plant kingdom quietly proceed to thrive and multiply. They have successfully spread from polar regions to the tropics and are equally at home in our cities or in the countryside. Perhaps a key to their success is their small size. Perhaps it is due to their ancient lineage, going back more than 400 million years, to a time when plants were first colonizing the land. Whatever the reason, these tough yet attractive opportunists hold many surprises for the interested observer.